What is going on, everybody? Well, let's see. We'll start off with I'm Andy Vitale, host of My Fight Our War, co-host of Music and Mayhem with Skylar Ray, and also messing with Mandy Vitale. And messing is pretty much what I do best because, as you heard, that was the old intro, and I made it a point before hitting the button to tell OG, yeah, let's make sure I hit the right button this time.
Oops.
And I still hit the wrong button. But anyways, welcome to another episode of My Fight Our War. And no, it's not Monday. It's not even Wednesday with Music and Mayhem or Thursday or Friday with Kaisa. We have been very blessed by getting a lot of people wanting to come on and tell their stories. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I've said it all along, man. If you have a story, you got a voice, you deserve to be heard. And that's what's happening tonight. We've got someone who's got a voice and a story, and they're going to be heard. And that somebody, as you've seen their comments on our show, always participating with the motivation, support, and everything else. Well, today it's about him, and that's Randy Powers.
Yay!
So you know what, OG, with all this stuff, I almost forgot to bring you on.
Oh, no.
Everyone's going to forget who you are. So, boom, there's OG.
Please don't forget who I am.
No. And as you guys saw at the intro there, it was probably about 7:12-ish. So we were right on time. There you go.
Yeah.
So right now, let's get Randy on here. Randy Powers, how are you?
Hi, Randy.
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 How you doing, Randy?
Hey, it's good to be here. Really good.
Man, it seems that me and Randy have a lot in common.
Yeah.
When it comes to our IT skills.
Uh-oh.
Randy's right there with me, man.
Throw me in the grease, Manny.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we going back and forth,
here.
And that's exactly what with me. And I explained that to Randy. I said, listen, when it comes to IT, when it comes to the studio and all the technical stuff, hey, I know enough to know what I don't know. And that's why I have two guys that took over the studio and did all the stuff and go from there. So, because I know when to call in for help. So,
yeah.
But all's good, man. Thanks for coming on, Randy.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, most definitely. And as everyone knows, OG is going to pop into the green room, do her thing so she can start getting her carpal tunnel on.
Okay.
There you go.
Thanks.
So we got me and Randy. And Randy, thank you for, besides coming on, really appreciate your support for, when we do our shows. One thing that means a lot to me is when I look over to the side and I just see a list of our amazing family members coming on with comments and just support for each other. And you're always right there. So thank you for that.
Well, you're more than welcome. It's good. It's good to give support. We are family in this fight.
We are. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And before we get things started, man, a lot of us, like with the drugs and alcohol, as so rightfully put earlier, we went from drug dealers to
hope dealers.
Look at that shirt.
Dealer.
Yeah,
yeah,
he's got his shirt there. We're hope dealers. So,
nice shirt.
Yes. But Randy, why don't you let's just start this off. Get to know Randy a little bit, man. A little bit about you, where you're from, and all that good stuff.
Well, my name's Randy Powers. I'm from Athens, Tennessee. I was born and raised here until I got into college, and I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee. In Knoxville, Tennessee, I mean, I had always been a pretty good guy. I went to Citizens National Bank as my first job, working in the loan department, and started out as a pretty normal person, but I decided to go to college. I mean, I was smoking a little weed, drinking some on the side, but when I got into college, I decided to try cocaine. So things, kind of spiraled downward from there. But I tried to maintain pretty much a normal life my whole life. But I've been pretty much. I mean, I was a normal guy, but how we're functioning alcoholics or functioning addicts. I was pretty much a functioning addict. Is pretty much. I didn't have much of an alcohol problem. I did drink quite a bit, but just as socially. But my problem was always drugs.
Okay, when like you said, as far as working and all that stuff, because you hear quite a bit of that. Some people have that misconception when they're addict. Oh well, they don't work, don't have jobs, don't have this, don't have that. That's not true. I know people who have been dealing with addiction most of their lives and have worked most of their lives, as you said, a functioning
Like you.
alcoholic or addict. But
Yeah.
so like growing up though, as far as the younger years, like family, friends, was there drugs or alcohol?
My family was pretty much we come from the Bible Belt here in the Deep South, and we were pretty much a church going family, and we never. My parents didn't drink. I had a granddad that nipped on the bottle some, but I mean nothing. He wasn't out of control with it, and none of my family were drinkers, and none of my families were drug users. But at an early age, I had started using marijuana.
Okay, we break it up a little bit, Randy. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh.
We lost Randy. We've got a little issue with the internet and the Wi-Fi with Randy. That's what we were working on earlier, and we've been losing connection and freezing up with him. Hopefully this is going to clear up. We're going to see what happens. It's going to hopefully reset. Now we got you back, Randy.
I hooked up, I hotspotted my wife's phone, and she went outside for just a minute. So, I mean, I'm using Wi-Fi and internet. So
okay. So with the
I was trying to hotspot her Wi-Fi, and she left the building, and it messed everything up.
Well, we're good now.
Okay,
we're good now. We're good now, brother. So yeah, sometimes when we're hearing these stories, and I mean, for some poor people, man, from the day they come out of the womb, they're just surrounded by drugs, alcohol, violence, the whole works. And then you get others like yourself and like me, so-called normal life growing up. So as far as you growing up, it wasn't around your family and friends. It wasn't an issue until you basically went to away for college, and that's where you were introduced to it.
Well, I was pretty much a daily marijuana smoker, but I wasn't necessarily out of control. I mean, yeah, any that's out of control really. But I lost some family members and had a bad breakup with a relationship, and started doing cocaine and even dealt it for a while. But I did maintain. I did keep going to college, but I wound up getting married to a lady, and she was a drug user too. And we so-called a functioning lifestyle. We this whole time we were using pills, and all trying to maintain a normal lifestyle. When that never works out, you always think you got it together when you really don't. We thought we had it together. We had a kid, and still we're using on the side, and me working, but the cocaine usage just kept getting worse. I kept using cocaine, marijuana, and it just got worse, but I tried to hold it together for my son, though. I always think together, but I didn't have it together. But that my relationship fell apart, and when it did, things got even worse. Something like a tragic event always will trigger. So that was the trigger. I broke up with my wife for a while, and I was using cocaine. Well, we get back together, and she's using cocaine too. So were using cocaine together even then, and trying to
Yeah.
maintain a normal lifestyle. But it's crazy. It just got crazier, Manny, as we went along.
Oh, yeah. And that's just it, too, because, the thing is, all addicts, I don't care who you are, will sit there, and people who you get a grip on it will be the first to admit it. We are the biggest bullshitters, manipulators, liars around. And I mean, and that's just it. We'll sit there. We lie so much. We lie to ourselves, and
Oh,
we're lying to
definitely.
everyone else. And that's just how we get. Oh, well, and then we keep raising the bar. Well, I'm not as bad as so and so is. But it still makes you bad, and especially when there's a relationship and the other
Yeah.
person's doing it as well. So the cocaine use and the marijuana use, you said afterwards it got even worse. Is this a daily? Is this daily?
It wasn't daily because I really couldn't afford it. But then I started dealing cocaine, and selling it in the bars and stuff, But you said a mouthful when you said you even start believing your own lies. You would get to be able to lie so good that you even fall for your own lies, And everybody, you think everybody around you is too, but not necessarily always the case, And
Oh yeah.
later make amends with those people.
Yeah, and that's just it, because you literally at the beginning, it's awkward, especially when you're new at playing this game. But then once you start getting into the depths of addiction, man, the stories and the bullshit you come up with, and sometimes you can hide it pretty good. But then when it gets to the depths where it's out of control, and we think people are buying our shit, no, they're not. I mean, it's just we think we're getting away with it, Randy, but we're not.
No, I mean the stealing and all that, it starts showing up. You try to hide it, but people aren't stupid.
No.
We are falling for our own lies, but they're not.
Exactly.
Those later have to come back and make amends with. Like we talked about in the step recoveries. But
now with your family, Randy, growing up or dealing with this is when it first started. Did you have family and friends who were kind of like, all right, Randy's acting a little different, something's going on? Who were the first ones that kind of saw that, or it even approached you that something was up?
Well, my dad, he knew, because he would find evidence that I'd been using drugs, and he would find he would find little short straws. He called them sniffing sticks.
Well, hey, he was right.
He said I cleaned your car out and I found your sniffing sticks. He called them your little snorting straws. He said I put your little sniffing sticks in your top drawer in there. I guess he was getting the evidence out of the car, so if I got pulled over, but
Yeah, so
he was the one that was close enough that he knew and he recognized that I had the wool pulled over a lot of people's eyes, but he watched me close enough that he really realized that I was struggling and going through something, and I'm sure he was praying for me the whole time, But
sure.
Other people, I kept job, like you said, we were functioning addicts and alcoholics, so I kept a job. I did bounce around some, but kept a pretty good job, and had money, and he gave me money when I was in college, and so I lived pretty good, and I hid it pretty well for a long time, until it finally got really so bad that it was obvious that I was a full-blown addict,
Yeah, so I just had a guest on the other night, and the one thing that she said was about her worrying about her job, and she goes, "Yeah, I had the same job for over 21 years," and it's like, whoa. I mean, you talk about a surprise, because when you're dealing with what we deal with, usually it's this job, then to that job, and then people are they don't put up with this stuff because they've got a business to run. So with you, it as far as affecting your work and all that, sounds like you were functioning, dealing with it. Did it ever get to the point where it did affect your job?
Well, yeah, because I'm a salesman by trade. I was a car salesman for a lot of years. I was selling cell phones after I got in. When I was in college, I went to work for a cell phone company and was selling cell phones. And then I lost that job and I moved to selling cars, and so I was pretty good at it. And when because you're driven, so you make all that money so you can buy your drugs. But I was working for a dealer, and on one Friday, I got paid my commission, and it was like $1,600. And then on Monday, I come in and they were ordering burgers, and I borrowed $1 from the guy to get a hamburger. He was like, "What the?" He's like, "You made $1,600 on Friday, and you're borrowing $1 from my brother today." So he wound up sending me to rehab, which was it was a mental health center here we got in town, and I would go there once a week and have some on the way home or on the way back to work and get me some dope, on the way back to work. So, I mean, it really didn't solve anything, but yeah, it did make a problem for him. He thought I was solving it by going to that rehab, but it just continued getting worse. I kept, but I was able to sell enough, make enough sales to keep him happy, but he, at the same time, he thought I was rehabbing, whatever you call that. So it really, I was just going deeper and deeper and deeper as time went along.
Yeah, see, that happens too with until you're ready, and we finally make that choice. Because I know, like for me, I remember people, family, and all that telling me, worry about my life, the direction I was going, and it got to the point where I was like, okay. And then you continue with the lies. You're right. You know what? I got to change. I'll change the same bullshit that we tell. And I would actually go into these meetings before they'd start and get like pamphlets, the steps, the programs, the AA, get all the information that they'd have. And then I'd just walk out and go get a bottle and get hammered. And then come back, and then I go, oh, here, what'd you do today? Well, I told you. So I went and I showed these pamphlets, which I just walked in and took them because, I wasn't ready. And,
the steps work themselves, and you were expecting just having the steps didn't do any good. If you know them and you don't apply that, it doesn't work. That's what you were going through.
Exactly. And, with you, like you said, here you're dealing with an issue, and then you end up in a relationship with somebody that has an issue as well. Yeah. I mean, so there was really no support, going on. What, you were talking earlier about some the things that go along with addiction, and another one besides the lifestyle and all that is jail, is law. What are some of the things that happen with you as far as that goes?
Well,
run-ins with the law.
My first wife, she got arrested quite a bit because she had a criminal or some history of drug, prosecutions and so forth. But I was always able to kind of skate my way away from the law. But then but we started having domestic issues, and she would get my golf clubs and hit herself in the arm and call the cops and say, "Hey, he's been hitting me," and then they would take people.
Ooh.
Like, and my son was like, "Dad, you're a real man taking that." I'm like, "No, I'm a real wuss taking this. What I am. I shouldn't have put up with it, but I did." So he did. I mean, I don't hit women, so I put up with it. But I started getting arrested for that. I mean, she would get me sent for domestic violence, so-called domestic violence, when I never even laid a finger on her. My son can attest to that fact, and he still to this day remembers that. He said he saw me getting beat. I mean, I'm a big guy. It didn't really hurt. It was like a piss ant, on an elephant. It didn't hurt. It was just, it does something to your psyche. It just really, you want it to work for your kid, and he's seeing all this stuff. So and your answer is kill the pain. You take more drugs, more. We would drink more or take more drugs. Get zooted out on cocaine or pills or what have you. So I mean, just first, that even it got so bad that she finally had me. I came home from work one day and so I'm and the cops knocking on the door, and they're like, "Well, you need to get your things." I'm like, "What do you mean get my things?" And they're like, "Well, you're leaving." I'm like, "No, I'm not." They said, "Oh, yeah, you are." So I got kicked out of my own house. I mean, because she says I had domestic violence and she had some kind of a whatever order of protection, what have you,
No, the PPO, I would know that.
all that. So I went to court over it, and so I get there, and here's my neighbor sitting with her in court, and I'm thinking that this is like arraignment, but this is like the actual hearing, and they were like, the judge was like, well, he asked her what's going on, and she said, well, he's beating on me, and I'm like, what? And so he's like, well, do you have any evidence? And so she sends up pictures up to the judge, and she's got like a black eye and the bruises on her face and a bloody nose, and I'm like, where'd this come from? And so he says, he makes me look at him. I'm like, well, yeah, that's her, but I didn't do this. And so I hand him back, and then he's like, well, do you have any more witnesses? And the neighbor lady's sitting right next to her, and she goes, yeah, I saw him hitting her and kicking her off the porch. I'm like, whoa, Your Honor, I need an attorney. I thought this was arraignment, but later I found out that she had hired someone to punch her in the face to make those pictures.
Oh my goodness!
I got kicked out of my own house and had to leave, and that just started our dissolution of that marriage.
Oh God, yeah.
I guess so.
I mean, having a lady and her husband. I mean, I'm sorry to be so graphic, but that was actually happening, is what I found out later. But luckily, the other neighbor lady I had said that she had told her that she had hired one of the young punks in the neighborhood to punch her in the face so she could take those pictures to court to get me in trouble, So luckily I was able to get out of that because I had proof that, or had that witness saying she had admitted to that neighbor, so I got out of that part of it anyway. So, but it just got hairier. It's things like this, one after another. She moved in with a dude up the street, and he was like a meth cook, which at the time I thought I was a cocaine addict, and I called meth redneck cocaine. I'm like, you were that redneck guy, so you have at it, But my son moved with it, and I'm like, man, I went all to pieces, because she took my son, and I had to had to stay away, and so drug use I got really bad, it was killing the pain, and trying to stay numb all the time.
Yeah.
Quite a bit, driving and using lots of drugs at the moment, and it just got worse from there for a moment, until I finally took the lady.
Well, the thing is too, when it comes to any type of addiction, whether it's pills or drinking or heroin, whatever it is, all we need is this much of an excuse. Hey, it's cloudy. Oh, great. I might as well do a line. Hey, it's raining. Oh, I might as well shoot up. I mean, it doesn't take much for us to come up with something and to numb the pain, because we're real good at making excuses and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's that's the part as far as what I deal with and what I really want to accomplish with My Fight Our War and all of us and our stories is we can relate, to the stories. I mean, when it comes to, I'll never physically know what you feel, but as far as addiction and what it's taken from us, that deep, dark, scary hole that addiction is, we can relate to it. Who can't relate to it is our family, our friends and loved ones who don't understand, who've never drank, done drugs. They're like, well, how can it take over your life like this? So when we share these stories, Randy, what I love is to share stuff just like that, to show people that that's how powerful addiction is, that it can make you choose the drug over your wife, your son, your mother, your father. That's how powerful it is.
Yeah, over the son part is very accurate, because I thought, I could hold it together for my son, but while all the turmoil was happening, the only escape I got was getting high, and so I would always get high, and eventually DCS comes in the picture, and they're like, oh, you're both dirty on drugs, so they take my son away from me and her. Luckily, my dad was able to get custody of him, and I was able to see him, but still, that makes me look like a turd in front of everybody. Here I am. I've lost custody of my son, even though I get to see him. So
sure,
because I I was dirty. I actually was the one that called DCS and said, "Hey, this chick's moved in with this guy. He's a meth cook." And so she tested positive for that. And I'm like, "Oh, good." And they're like, "Oh, but here's your cup. Go pee for us too." I'm like, "Oh, great." So so we lost custody of him for a minute, and my dad had custody of him, but luckily he was in good hands there, obviously. But at the same time, then it even gets worse. I've lost my son. Now what now?
Oh yeah.
Let him down. So now I'm just going to do more drugs,
Yeah, because now it's just an excuse after excuse. And the thing is, though, with the drugs and with addiction, and it's just this snowball effect. That you think, well, yeah, I can't even tell you how many times I've said, and other, excuse me, people have said, well, it can't get any worse. Well, oh, yes, it can, and it will. It'll continue to get worse. And for you, though, you brought up the whole thing as far as the changes it makes. I mean, before you started your path down with addiction, before cocaine, before all that, if someone would have walked up to you and said, "Randy, what would you say if I told you in 10 years from now, or whatever it is, you're going to be charged with domestic violence? You're going to be sitting in court because there's going to have pictures of a woman that says you beat the crap out of her." I mean, you'd be like, "That'll never happen to me." Well, you know what? It happened to you. I never in a million years thought that I'd be woken up in the morning by a doctor saying, "Manny, all of your organs shut down. You've got 6 weeks to live. Hospice is taking over your care. Say goodbye to your mom. Say goodbye to your family." If someone would have told me that 6 years prior, you're crazy. That's how powerful addiction is.
It's always a downward spiral. It never gets better. It just continues to get worse. They say jails, institutions are death for a reason. It just continues on that downward spiral. It never gets better. You can't ever get it under control like you think, "Oh, I'll do better. I'll be able to control this. I'll just do an 8-ball per week, or I'll just drink a couple of beers every night." Whatever. It just gets worse though. It never gets really better because it just seems like when you start into that lifestyle and you start relying upon that, it just seems like that our adversary just stows more at us because he's found our weak spot. And all of a sudden, all these things happen. It just, like you said, the snowball effect has happened.
Yeah.
Things
just
at you.
Yeah, and just think about how this thing, as far as this happening, you just look at it, and it's funny because we try to be logical as addicts. Like, you try to navigate and negotiate with yourself. Well, you know what? I think there might be an issue, so instead, I'm only going to do an 8-ball every other day.
Yeah.
And then in our minds, we're like, well, yeah, that's good. And then I'll only shoot up every 2 days, and then I'll drink a fifth every other day. And then on the other days, I'll just drink a pint.
Yeah.
And in our minds, as screwed up as that sounds, it's like, and here's the crazy part is, if you actually did that for a long-term plan goal, I'm going to go from this down to this, down to this, down, and then actually do that. We don't do that. It's like, well, then the best one, Randy, is, all right, I'm going to get clean. I'm going to, tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. One more night. We'll just do one more night, and then tomorrow we'll do it. Oh, okay.
Well, self-control is not one of our strengths, but I heard RFK Jr. talking, and when he obviously he used to be a heroin addict, and he said, "I would make contracts when I woke up with myself." And he said, "I'm not going to do any heroin today." And he said before the day was over, he would break that contract. And see, that just adds to your gloom and your despair because you don't have self-control anymore. You can't control yourself. It's I call it the tail wagging the dog. That's what happens. The tail starts wagging the dog. You really don't have control like you think. And instead of getting more control, you get less control as time goes along. And it only gets worse.
So how is this with this progression now? You went from, obviously, you have your son, you have this relationship, it goes south. How does your life progress from there to the point where you're in or you're in court? I'm sorry, you're in court. All this is happening. What goes from that point on? How does what happens next in your life?
It gets worse. I thought it was going to get better because I hooked up with a girl that I'd known since we were teenagers, and I thought, hey, she was always a good girl, and I hooked up with her, and we wound up getting together and getting married. I'd known her since we were 16 years old, and I was still doing the Percocet 30s, and I was sneaking and doing it and trying to do that, maintain while no one else knew it, And so one night I'm crushing up Roxy 30s in the laundry room, and she walks in. She goes, "What you got there?" And she thought it was Coke, And I'm like, "Well, it's nothing you want." "Oh yeah, give me a line of that." And so she takes a line of it, and from there, all of a sudden, here we go down the drug road. My second wife, and I thought she was already drinking an 18 pack of beer a night, and I'd ask her to slow down because son was with me then. I'd got him back, but I was like, you got to slow down because he's telling my mom if she's drinking an 18 pack every night and getting sloshy. And so I was like, please just stop. And so she did, but she was able to bounce over to the Roxy 30s, the Perk 30s, with me. And here I am. I'm selling up. I'm doing enough sales that I can buy these drugs and maintain both of us. We're doing $400 to $600 worth every day, and maintaining. And then she worked for a veterinary assistant, and I was a manager of a car lot, and I was maintaining all of our drug habits. Well, she quits her job, and I'm having to maintain her drug habit in mine too. And then that relationship starts going south. That's my second marriage, So that relationship went south as well because when you're in that type of lifestyle, everything always unwinds for you. Finally, you can't hold it together. I thought that was going to be a good relationship, but it just got worse too. She was sleeping around on me too. I mean, I wound up finding out about all this too, but I mean, she quit drinking, but she just moved to another addiction. She just moved from the alcohol. I mean, I didn't drink as much as she did, but she moved from alcohol to the Roxy 30s, and everybody knows what's been involved in addiction. But we were in the 30s, and I'm sitting here working my butt off every week, selling a ton of vehicles and spending $2 or $3 grand a week on pills. She even had a vehicle. We sold a vehicle for like $17,000 and snorted it up in 3 months.
Wow.
And it got bad, but we were trying to hold it together, but there were things going on behind the scenes that I didn't know about at the time with her and other guys too. And then
when it comes to something like that, man, you're doomed to. I mean, you can't. I mean, you could try unless you cut it off right at the head. Like you said, Randy, you're going to go from this to that. The addiction is going to be unless you quit it, there's going to be something to take its place.
Yeah, you just move from one thing to another. You got to win the battle to be able to beat it. We know the way now that you can't just move.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to knock anybody that's doing the Suboxone treatments because I know some people that to get off from it, but some people just go from one drug to another, and
exactly.
And so I mean, but I'm not going to knock that because I know people use that treatment to get better and to gradually wean themselves off from it. So that's something that like you pointed out, we just go from one drug to another, from alcohol to drugs to whatever.
Oh yeah, we try to find something. So with that now here, that relationship goes south with everything that's going on. So what happens then? Where do you go from there?
Well, so we're doing these Roxy 30s, and all of a sudden they passed. We had all these down south. We had all these pill mills where everybody could go and get these tons of Roxy 30s, OxyContin 80s, and all these things. And all of a sudden they start cracking down on all that. Oh. And all of a sudden they's like, "Oh, you can't get this." At the same time, I met a guy that was cooking meth, and he wound up being her cousin too. And I'm sneaking and buying meth and trying to wean myself off of these Roxys, and I find out she's doing the same thing. So we wind up doing meth together. So we started doing meth. Well, I lose my job in the meantime, so we start cooking meth, and everything. I'm talking about, it was a HE double toothpicks of a lifestyle, man.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, you're going from, and again, Randy, it's things that when you sit back now, look back, these were things growing up, and you hear, the word addict and all that. You've got this preconceived notion of what an addict looks like, how they act, and that could never be me. For me, the
Right.
longest time, I tell you what, for me, I mean, I partied like a rock star, man. I was riding. I went from a Detroit police officer to an EMT to riding with a 1% motorcycle outlaw club.
Yeah.
1 minute I'm working with the feds, the next minute I'm being chased by the feds,
Yeah.
and all this is going on. And but yet I'm sitting there and I'm partying away, and the word addict comes up, and I'm like, I ain't shooting up. Well, okay, but you're drinking this, you're doing that, you're doing all these other things.
Right.
But for my little twisted mind to justify what I was doing, I'd always minimize it by saying, well, at least I'm not doing this, which didn't make what I was doing any better. And yeah, man, it's just a vicious circle, Randy, what we do.
Yeah.
So, so now, with this is the second wife, right? That
Yeah.
is cooking with now. So how long does this relationship go on before?
We were married about 6 or 7 years, but we were together probably 3 or 4. But then we started having problems because she started stepping out, But we, at the same, we were cooking meth together, and eventually the like you said, the feds are chasing us. So eventually, it wasn't the feds; it was our Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, or the Drug Task Force here. You have to buy the allergy. I'm not going into it because it's conspiracy, but you got to buy pills at the drugstore, and you got to buy these other ingredients.
Yeah.
And I started noticing. I mean, I've been doing drugs and selling drugs and living this lifestyle and I had friends that wore the support your local, what I'm saying. And
yeah.
I hung out with all the cool guys, but I'd never been followed, and so I could see it when they started following me. I knew we were in trouble, So our relationship was coming apart. I knew she was stepping out on me, and I knew, but we were still trying to do the put drugs together. You don't sell many of them because you do the majority of them yourself, but you still sell some of those. But they're following us and everything, and so eventually she leaves, and we broke up. We separated for a while, and they roll up 8 deep on me at my house, and I didn't open the door. They didn't have a warrant. I didn't open the door, but I thought I waited them out, but then they waited me out. We're on a second back street, and they saw me come out, and they gave chase for a while on foot. I took off, and they arrested me, and I got charged for manufacturing methamphetamine in 2000. Well, they arrested me in 2013. I stayed in jail for about a year awaiting trial because I kept putting it off, trying to get a better plea bargain, which never happened. But I got arrested at 13, and finally I signed off on an 8-year prison sentence in 2014 for manufacturing methamphetamine. And
now, was it just you? She wasn't with you?
She wasn't
when
with
this happened?
me, and so I thought, and later I found out she was an informant.
I was just gonna say that she was part of you getting hit.
She was part of it. But the funny thing about it was, Manny, is I was sitting in the patrol car with a guy. I mean, I knew all these guys around here anyway, and I'm like talking to the guy, and I look at his laptop in the front seat up there, and he's got the records pulled up of why they're there. But I'm looking at it while he's out doing whatever, and it's her purchase record of one of the ingredients. It was her record, so he had it, and it was a dead giveaway anyway. Then she was
part of it. Yeah.
But
is it? You know what?
I'm sorry.
What's crazy, Randy, is just how you knew that she, like you said, she was stepping out and all this stuff, and things were unraveling, but to maintain the drugs coming in and the drugs being sold and to maintain being able to take it,
Yeah.
you kind of just, yeah, it was like you look past it. We stayed together so we can still do the drugs.
Yeah.
That's how powerful that addiction is, man.
Yeah. I knew she was stepping out, but it was all just, she was part of that program of how we got it together and everything.
Yeah.
She stayed there and everything. I mean, we got into it a time or two, and she even stabbed me in the arm one night over. She started yelling. I'm like, quiet down, you know. Anyway, she stabs. The law comes, but I'm already out of there. But later, you know, I find out she's the one that's even rolled on me. But you know, she was part of that. But I stayed with her. But eventually, we did break up. You know, eventually we broke up, and then I found out. I forget what you call it when you request who the informant is in court, but it was so vague that, and they were so crooked that they didn't even tell me that she was, but I know for a fact she did it.
Yeah. Now, Randy, you said that, I'm sorry, I know you told me, but from that, what happened to you then when they picked you up, you got 8 years for that?
I stayed in jail about a year because they offered me a plea bargain, 8 years, and I'm like, no. And so I stayed another 6 months waiting to see if they would bargain with me, but they never would. And finally, after nearly a year, they were like, sign off here. And I'm like, can I go home today? And they're like, yeah, but you'll be on paper for 8 years. So I did, Manny. I signed off on it. You know, I signed off. We kind of got back together, though. I kind of got back with her. You know, stupid as that sounds, I even got back with her again. You know, and she was always just dogging me out, and she was calling me a needle junkie. And I'm like, I'm not a needle junkie. And she kept on calling, and I said, let me tell you something. Let me just make your dreams come true. And I started doing that. And buddy, talk about a hook now. I got hooked on that needle really hard.
Wasn't it? I've talked to a lot of people, Randy, that like I said, by the grace of God, I never did. And but I've talked to so many people that have, and like sometimes with other drugs, whether it's liquor, beer, heroin, or not, like coke, crack, whatever it is. They said the ones who did heroin, because sometimes you'll do something, it's like, well, I really didn't like it, so I tried it again, and I tried it a few times, and then I got hooked. But I talked to a lot of people when it came to heroin. That first time, not everybody, but the first, they said, like you just said, it got you. Is that how it was with you, Randy? That first time?
If I was hooked. I mean, I was already an addict, and it just blew my gourd when I hit that first hit of that on the needle. I was like, oh yeah, here's where it's at, you know. But that's where the destruction was, you know. I mean, I even went down further. You know, I was on 8 years paper. You got to report every month to your probation officer, parole officer, probation department, and you're subject to be piss tested anytime, you know, during that time, you know. So, I mean, I never did get tested during any of that, but there was a point finally when I was still using, and I violated that 8 year paper, you know, that violation, and I was going to have to go, and I was in state custody, and by this time my dad, he hired me a good attorney this time instead of using the public defender. He got me a really good defense attorney, and in lieu of going to prison and spending the 8 years, they offered me a stint at a rehab, but it's a Christian-based rehab, and I'm telling you, Manny, that's what saved my life, because when I got there, I found out, because the Bible tells us Jesus came to give liberty to the captives, and I was a captive of that addiction, and hit by, and yeah, I worked the steps too. Don't get me wrong. I went ahead and did this. I did all the steps too, and that is a good. I don't tell people. Some people believe in a one step, but I say go ahead and do the steps too. You know, go ahead and do that too. But I did. I believed that Jesus could set me free, and He really did. I surrendered and gave it to Him there at Miracle Lake Christian Training Center, and I went through there and stayed there. And my recovery.
I tell you, Jim, I tell you, Randy, talking about the different, I really love what you said too about the different things. Because one thing that I really, really push on My Fight Our War is when I very first started, I had a guy who he had his own personal agenda and wanted to be a big, a podcast star and all that. So he's telling me all the things I wanted to hear. Well, I ended up getting on a show and we're talking about recovery, and he's like a fan favorite. People are, and then all of a sudden he's talking about his program and what worked for him. And like I always say, man, it doesn't matter what worked for you, or works for him or her, whatever works for me.
Yeah.
Because what works for you may not work for me. And so we're on the show, and this guy is like, happened to be talking about doing the steps in AA. And so I made a comment. I said, well, yeah, you know what? I go, well, the good thing is, thank God there's so many options to choose from. AA, there's different counseling, there's social media, there's, all different types. And he goes, oh, no, there's not. He said, if you do not do AA, if you don't do the steps, you will never recover. You will fail. And I'm just like, whoa. And I had to stop him there, and I cut him off. And I went into the green room with him. I said, listen, you are not going to come on my show and sit here and tell people that if they don't do it your way, that they will all fail. Not only were they going to fail, they were going to fail and go to hell. I mean, that was just like, whoa. But so, Randy, I really love that because I had a guy that came on. He goes, Manny, I tried the steps and I just couldn't do it. I felt it wasn't for me. He goes, so I tried doing something else, and I'm doing great. So the biggest thing is, Ray, like you said, man, doing multiple things. It's not like you're cheating on one recovery group if you're doing multiple. The more, the better.
I was going NA, and then CR.
Yeah. So, Randy, how long I'm sorry, you were in for that year, whatever it was, you signed. You were on paper for 8 years, and then all that happened.
Yeah,
how long?
2017, Manny, and that's
okay.
Back into state custody, and then so I went to Miracle Lake, but I've been clean since 2017. Praise God, But
2017.
All right.
2017. I don't remember. Everybody knows their clean date, but I don't remember the exact. I think it was February of 2017.
Hey.
But here's what I have found out though. I went to Miracle Lake Christian Training Center, and I did their program, and then I did AA, and I did NA, and I also did. My son he's a worship pastor for Celebrate Recovery, and I did Celebrate Recovery too. That's a step program as well, But while I was going to Celebrate Recovery, I got this idea that that's the only way that you can get recovered. And so I go to AA, and then, I went to an AA meeting for my old place that I used to go to. And they did the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven prayer. And then this GDMF, SOB, blah, 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 blah. And I got mad. And so I left, and I slammed the door, and on the way out. But I'm going to tell you, God dealt with me on that, because he said, listen, I'll get to people in my perfect timing, and I'll use the system that I want to use to get to them. So I was being prideful and thinking that I knew the only way, when there are other ways to get to that. But I do know that Jesus does give liberty to the captives, but it's in his perfect timing as to how they get to that,
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That he uses to get to them. I just encourage anybody that's struggling, to get involved with some kind of a group in your area, and to follow those steps, and don't discount any of them, making amends down that are good or bad about yourself, and going through all the steps, and work it, because my thing is scripture. I do a radio broadcast called The Good News of Jesus on Sundays, and obviously I'm a Christian. I know you're Catholic, and I know we're all on the same page there as far as that goes. But my thing is God gets to people in his perfect timing, and what he wants to use to
froze
get
again.
Oh,
God. Oh, can you hear me, Chet? Randy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We
good.
froze up
Froze for a
again.
second.
Oh, yeah. We both got froze.
Yeah. So what I said is I was going to Celebrate Recovery, and I thought that was the only way. And
Mhm.
I said I've got a Christian radio broadcasting channel, and I do believe firmly that Jesus is the way that I got through this. And I know you're Catholic, and I
Yeah.
know that the priest can give you advice on how you can work through it scripturally. But I'm just saying that God is going to use however He wants to do it. It doesn't necessarily have to be one certain way that He's going to do that. You know,
Yes. Yeah. You
everybody to try to read the Bible and to try to do it the scriptural way. But if that's not where God has got you right now, I advise you to go to the step program, wherever it is that you need to be. Start in it and do work the steps and do make new friends and do get in these communities like this one that you've got here
yeah,
and
yeah.
on your podcast and at least and talk to the people online. I try to listen to you too. I mean, I'm staying with you, but I'm still talking with these other people.
Oh, yes. Yeah, without a doubt.
No.
Yeah, and that's just the thing, Randy, is I talk to so many different people and I listen, I take advice from everybody and I like it like you. I will never, when it comes to, like my dad always said, son, one thing you do not talk about family parties, religion and politics. And I take that to heart. But at the same time, um, I had a guest come on. He goes, "Yeah, I'm really not sure how it's going to go because my faith and my religion is very important to me." I'm like, "Well, that's great." I go, I'm the same way. I go, "I'm Catholic and my faith is everything to me." He
Yeah.
goes, "Well, someone told me that you won't let people talk about that." I'm like, "I never said that." But
Uh,
what I did say, but you can't, again, I had to clarify just that, I will not push my religion. I will, in fact, what I did say one time is faith, whatever your faith is, whatever your religion is, God bless you. And
yeah.
because without faith, man, if you don't have faith, you're in for a rocky road. And I remember I was on a roll with this one person, and we're talking about faith and just the
Yeah.
trust and the belief. And I said, at this point, if you believe and your faith is in a dead possum's ass, you pray to that dead possum's ass. If that's your faith. And Chief replies, Maddie, I'm going to go find me a dead possum and get me a cult. And but no, but Randy, you're right on though about the your faith and all that. Because as you know, I'm Catholic and all that, but beforehand, they're like, when I found out I was going to die, and they're like, "Oh, you must have prayed in the Bible." I go, "No, I didn't." I go, "I didn't pursue. I kind of just, I gave up. I was like, whatever, whatever's their will." And all of a sudden, the changes happened in my life, just like you going to where you went. It happens like that saying, not your time, our time,
Yeah.
God's will, God's time.
Yeah. Well, and I was prideful because I walked out of that AA meeting, Manny, and I slammed the door and knocked the pictures off the wall. And when I got outside, that small voice inside of me that I think was God told me that, "Hey, look, who are you to decide how I deal with these people, because they are doing it the way that I've set it up for them to do it. And you're trying to be prideful and think that it's only your way works when I've
Yeah.
got ways that I can get to them." And that's what, and I do. And I'm a firm believer that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And I'm a firm believer that He will set the captives free. And I'm a firm believer that He is the way out. But I'm not going to ram it down somebody's throat because they may not be at
Yeah.
that moment that they need to hear that right now.
Exactly.
Hey, I was just like you, and I got delivered, and there is a way, and you can find that way if you'll seek it.
Exactly. So with you're going through all this stuff now, and you're working the programs. You're going to the center where you were going now with, and also you said your son as well.
My son was a worship, and he's still
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you got all these tools that you're dealing with, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you're loading that arsenal. That's great.
Well, I mean, and I'm just going to tell you now, my son is a worship leader for Celebrate Recovery, and I've got lots of friends that go there now. But that's not my community anymore, and it's probably going to make them mad to hear this on this podcast. But my God has sent me to different places now.
Mhm.
I work at a car lot. I work at a factory. I got the radio broadcast, and he's using me in different ways,
Yeah.
I've got other ways that now I'm all for people going to the celebrate recoveries or AAs or NAs or their counseling or whatever they need to go to.
Mhm.
But when it's your time to be moved to something different, God's going to put you somewhere else. I think He's got me in a different place, Manny. I'm not necessarily.
No.
I'm not against CR. I love CR, and I love my son, and I love the fact that he's teaching the steps, and he's still doing the praise and worship, and he does show them the way. But it's not that I'm above it or beyond it or whatever, but it's just He's got me doing something different now.
Exactly. And we both discussed it. And again, I had a gentleman, he was just so upset, man, and he's just like, Manny, what do I do? He goes, what is the best way to get sober? What is the best way to stay sober? And I looked at him, I go, your way. We'll all sit here, and I go, for me, when I first started doing this madness, like we were talking about my IT skills, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I would take all this advice from people, and I would listen to them, and I was like, and I'd take it in like a sponge. I'd listen. Now at the end of the day, I'm going to just trust my own judgment because I want to be my own person. But just like you and me, what we're doing here is I want to see what's best for my situation. And that's what you're doing. Your son's doing. That's what we're all doing.
Yeah.
But
Well, you'd be surprised how many people since I've just started a new job doing this car sale. I've been out of car sales for a good while, but I got an offer for a job and I'm doing that. But you'd be surprised how many people that I'm able to tell my story, and pass
Mhm.
on what he's done, what has happened for me, and give them hope that they can do the same thing. I'm not a dope dealer anymore. I'm a hope dealer.
And not
There
only
you
that,
go.
Randy, but I see on your page when I was clipping through looking, because I knew, like I said, obviously with you coming on. So I'm just checking out your page and all that. And, you got all those posts with the short little clips that you do at
Yeah.
this. I mean, they're spot on, man. And you know what? They're, you get the pushy car salesman and all that. And that's not you at all. It's like, instead of as soon as you hear like, come on down, you turn it off. With you, it's almost like a discussion, a conversation with a friend instead of a sales pitch being shoved down your throat. So I can see how that's gonna, create a conversation when someone comes in, man, because you definitely got that personality.
Well, thank you for saying that. But I just want to say that, my reason for being here, I know that's my job, but I think also that I've been placed here for a reason because I've ran into a lot of people that needed to hear, to have some hope that for that day. And somebody needed to hear it, that there is a way that you can get past addiction and drugs. I mean, right before the broadcast, there was a guy who rode his bicycle through, and I gave him sandwiches and some drinks, and I knew he was homeless, and because I know the guy, because I was homeless too. In 2016, I was homeless, had no home. I own a home now. I had no car. I've got 2 new cars. God has really restored me. I've got a great wife. I did divorce that second wife I was telling you about. And I decided, I said, I'm never getting married again. Never say never, So, I was in church and I was doing the right thing. And I met a beautiful, lovely wife, and she worked for a recovery program called Women at the Well. And we got the same, we're like-minded, and we do, our ministry is recovery, and our ministry is taking that message to the people that need to hear it. We talk to a lot of people, and it's just not necessarily at Celebrate Recovery or it could be on the car lot, it could be at Walmart, it could be at the Murphy gas station. Wherever it is that somebody needs to hear that message, there's hope. And
Now, Randy, when you met, I'm sorry, when you met your wife, you said you met her at church and all that.
Yeah.
Did you know already that she worked at helping in recovery? Did you
Yeah.
know that ahead of time?
The other women, she worked at that recovery house.
Oh, okay. Because it's just like, from now where I'm sitting now with all the blessings that God has given me, because in the past it was like, well, how do you explain that, Manny? It's just coincidence. It's coincidence. Now there's no coincidence. Everything happens because it was meant to happen.
Well, I mean, my wife is my best supporter now, and I've got her here with me. And if it's okay, can I bring her on for just one second?
Sure.
Sure.
Yes. What's her name?
This is Dale Powers, and look, she's a hope dealer too. And
Well,
so
did you say Dale?
Dale, like Dale,
Dale.
Evans,
Dale, nice to meet you.
she is also a hope dealer, and she worked for a recovery program for a lot of years. And she's just like, we've got the same message, and we're able to talk to a lot of people. You know, people don't want to hear preachers talking down to them and say, "Oh, you need to stop doing this. You don't need to do that." But you hear people. She was an alcoholic because her husband passed away and from an aneurysm, and she resorted to alcohol, and she was in a Cadillac. She had her back floorboard full of vodka bottles out driving around and got arrested. But she wound up in a recovery place, which was a faith-based recovery. Regardless how you get it, she got it through the faith-based recovery. But she was able to give that message to those girls. She had a lot more life experience. She was like us. She had a more normal life up until that certain point, but
Yes.
she got to a point where she needed to have recovery herself. But she found the answer too, and she found the way out of her addiction was alcohol. Mine was alcohol.
And the thing is too, you know what, for Randy and Dale, you know, nothing against pastors, nothing against counselors, nothing against life coaches, but who better to talk to than someone who's had the bottle in their mouth? Who's better to talk to than with a needle in their arm? Someone who's been there. And I'm not downplaying anybody. Anyone who's here to help somebody, I'll back you 100%. But I've had people that have talked to me. They're like, "Oh yeah, you know, I know how you feel." I'm like, "Oh, you've been dealing with alcohol?" Well, no, I don't drink. Oh, okay. Well, I know how you feel. Oh, you've done drugs, you've done coke. Well, no, don't tell me that you know how I feel.
Right.
And for you, Dale, Randy was just saying, and obviously with the issues with the alcohol, that if I don't know how you feel about it, but you are more than welcome. If you want to set something up with OG, if you would like to come on the show and tell your story, you are more than welcome to come on if you would like to.
She's got a great story, and it would make a really good show for you. I mean, it would take a good while too, because it's a long story. It's a story of recovery that a lot of our battles are similar. Hers is similar, but she went through a different walk. And I mean, hers started later in life. I mean, her husband didn't die till she was in her 40s, or just like me, I was in my 50s when I went to the rehab that I got recovered at. But she's got a really good story that she could tell too.
Yeah.
But,
Well.
And we're able to. You were talking about the preachers not being. People don't want to hear. Some of them don't even realize what they're doing. But we went to one recovery thing, and there was a pastor or one of the musicians' wife, and she said something. They moved us to a different sanctuary, and she said, and the words out of this lady's mouth were, she thought I was one of you guys. Meaning she
classified us as us and the them.
One of you guys, one of you all.
See, when I say now, when I love doing my show, because one thing I do is like I tell everybody, I am so proud to be part of this elite family of addicts, because we are strong, we're powerful, we're forgiving, we're loving, we're supportive, we're all these things. And who are we? Oh yeah, we're addicts. We're recovering, we're giving, and all that. So no, Dale, you are more than welcome to come on. And like I said, OG will go through the same process as far as getting your information and all that. So if you want to, we'll set it up for you, Dale.
Yeah. She's a lot better. She's a better talker than me. I've got that Southern accent. I'm not very.
Hey, you got that Southern. Actually, I'm going to be going to Alabama for an event, and I've been practicing up on my y'alls and fixing and stuff like that. And the first time,
hey, our daughter lives in Athens, Alabama, and we may show up.
Oh my goodness!
We'll be there. It would be great to meet you.
Hey, the eviction, we may crash your party there.
Hey, we'll be there and look forward to it. And like I said, with the y'alls and the fiction, and then I was told, "Oh, Manny, bless your heart." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And they're like, "Oh, no, man. You just got shined on." I was like, "What?"
Yeah, well, if you're not going, I just want to say this to everybody: if you're not going, York to. Yeah,
Oh, Randy.
got two daughters that live in that area, and Reagan and Jennifer, and they may be with us or may not, but they're involved in the churches down there. And there's the addiction. You talk about trying to relocate to get away from your addiction is everywhere.
It's everywhere, Randy. It's everywhere.
Recovered from it.
Yeah, let's you know what, Dale, let's definitely have you get a hold of OG, and you know, it's been great you know, talking with you, Randy. We had a little bit of rocky road, but hey, that's my fight, our war. If it would have went smooth, it would have been boring. You know,
Well, you know, and I'm more on the Christian thing, and I know that I lean towards that, but the devil tries to fight it because he knows that we've got a message that can help somebody out of that dark spot, you know, that they're in. You know, the people get tied up and they think that's the end of the road, and the tail wagging the dog is what I like to say. But there is a way out, and we know the door. We know where the
yes, yeah, you are. You nailed it. You nailed it. I keep talking, but Red, I tell you what, I would be great to see you guys, you know, in June. But before that, I know that
6, 7, and 8.
Yeah, with all of the shows, I always like to tell. Huh?
What OG say?
June 6, 7, and 8. We'll be flying.
Oh, that's when we're gonna be there. Yeah. But I always like to tell everybody when they're on the show, because some people, they're like, "Oh, it's great to meet you" and all that, and it's like, well, this isn't over. You know, just because you're on the show doesn't mean this is just the beginning. You know, I've had people who have come on multiple times telling stories, and what I always wanted with My Fight Our War, it's not. I don't want to be like anyone else or everyone else. If you want to come on and just tell a story about, hey, we had a barbecue, we had a great time, it was a family, and we might not even talk about addiction. We're just talking about the love of family and joy and the good things that happen. Because I've had people say, well, Manny, if you're in recovery, you really can't do anything. You can't go here. I go, why?
That's right.
I do everything that I do now. I'm on my Harley. I'm with some wild, crazy friends. I just don't do what I used to do. So Randy and Dale, we'll get you on, Dale, but you know, I go live all the time. So if you ever read, especially you with your spots on your page with the lot and all that, if you've got something, you know, one day it's like, man, you know what? I got this bug up my butt. I want to go live and talk about something. I'm going to call Manny. Give me a call. And if I'm available, we'll go Facebook Live, which is a lot easier because all I got to do is hit Facebook, hit your name, and that's it. And then we can go live if you want.
Definitely, we can do it, you know, and again, I'm going to resort back to my God thing, but God orders our footsteps, and there's no coincidence that you and I have met today and that we've done the podcast. And there's and it's by the providence of God that somebody out there may be watching this podcast, maybe just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, you know, but one of those people, God has aligned it that they're watching this and that we've said something that could lead them in the right direction, you know.
Without a doubt. And just as OG's been going through all the names, but we've got all our people here, and just while you're here, both of you, my brother Skyler and Donald Blow. We've got all of we've got Sheila, John Johnson, all these people
Heidi
who are
and
part
Diane
of
Hayes.
Oh my God, our little guardian angel in Connecticut, Sheila, all Jacqueline,
Phyllis,
Amber. We've got all these people that you see all the time on the content and on the comments, all here with all of the comments and sharing a lot of love and support for you. Here's one right here. Congratulations on your 8 years growing, Randy. And that's from Jacqueline, who her and Anna, or her and Amber are they're quite the pair when they get together.
Yeah, I've read some of the comments.
Oh, so when you get a chance, cut through here, and because there's a lot of love here for you, and I'd like really make sure you see it, and really appreciate you, for coming on and sharing. And again, you want to come on again, let's do it.
I'll be more than happy to, and I really appreciate the opportunity. You know, I don't have much, but I've got my story. You know, and I don't know a lot, but I do know the way that there is a way out,
Yep.
and we're here to. And like you said, those people that make these comments, you know, we are family, and you got to make new friends. You can't hang out with those old friends anymore because there's always that chance that they're going to drag you back into it. But you make these new friends, these recovery friends, and they're going to help you walk this walk and fight this war.
Oh, we've got, and they're just amazing. Every time it just makes me smile when I look over and I see, and like I said, when I see your comments up there, and I know we're in for something good. So your comments and your positivity and your humor,
Thank
I
you.
love it because it puts that smile on someone's face who is in a very bad place. So you're doing a great job, Randy.
Appreciate it.
So, well, listen, it's been a pleasure. And you got Randy Powers, man. Go to his page, check him out. Hope Dealers, thank you. Dale, make sure you get a hold of OG and we'll set you up as well.
Okay.
All right. Well, listen, great talking to you, and we'll be talking to you soon.
I know.
I really appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, we'll do it again, Randy.
There's hope for everybody. Anybody's listening.
Yes.
Yes, there is. All right, man. Love you, brother.
Love you.
Love you, Dale. You have a good one.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye. There you go.
All
Well,
right. New friends, new family.
I tell you.
We just keep adding to the
We
family
do,
tree.
and,
It's going to be a big tree. You know that, right?
just want to go through here and
Oh, yeah. Heidi
Nicole.
was here. Nicole was
We
here.
got
Mary Jane
Nicole.
was here. Tyler was here.
I love it. The Brat Attack, Nicole Bratney,
Brat
Heidi,
Attack.
Jacqueline.
Phyllis hadn't been on for a little bit.
What's Nicole got going on here? I'd meet you there. Work has me busy.
She's talking about in June.
Oh, okay. And then, of course, our girl Heidi. Heidi, I hope that hip's feeling better. Or hip, I'm sorry, the pelvis and all that stuff. But you guys, I really appreciate all of the love and support and everything you got going on. Nicole, here's you go. Hang out with someone who has a southern draw for a week, and you'll be stuck with that accent for 2
weeks.
I love the southern accent. And Jacqueline says, would love to meet y'all, Randy Powers. And then here's another one. Love the Hope Dealers. There you go.
Mhm.
See, you're just giving a new name. Hope Dealers love that spiritual gangster.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, you know what? You guys are awesome. You know, I love you guys. Tyler, all of you who are in here. Sheila, thank you for popping on. I know you said you're going to be late. Diane, love you, Diane. We're going to be seeing you. Jim over at Talking Trash. Our girl Kaisa was amazing. John Johnson. Actually, that says John, that's my boy. Believe that. So that's for Randy.
Yep.
My brother Skylar.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else down
Mary
below.
Jane from work.
Mary Jane, thank you, Mary Jane, for all your support too. And you guys have been amazing. Love you guys. Until next time. Do we have a show tomorrow?
Yes, we do.
Who's tomorrow?
John Toole, part
John
2.
Toole, part 2 tomorrow. It has been a busy week.
Yeah.
So until then, you guys take care. Love you guys. And as always, keep fighting that good fight. Let's see if I can hit the right intro
the correct
now.
intro.
Oh man,
Is there a number 2 by it?
Select. We're gonna try this one.
Okay.